SSC member of iLEAPS, and Dr. Samina, iLEAPS IPO, welcomes you all on the occasion of our 11th talk in iLEAPS Global Colloquium Series 2025, Episode 4. So, with a very good response received from the audience as well as from the speakers, we have decided to continue our series in 2025 also. So we have started this series in 2022. So this is our fourth episode. So before I move to the details of the today's speaker and the topic, um, I need to introduce what the iLEAPS is. So iLEAPS is Integrated Land Ecosystem Atmosphere Processes Study. It is a global research project of future Earth. iLEAPS provides understanding of how interacting physical, chemical, and biological processes transport and transform energy and matter through the land-atmosphere interface. The prime objective of this colloquium is to introduce a scientific society people with the distinguished and scientific work of eminent scientists from different parts of the world. It is a very bright opportunity, particularly for ECRs, to interact with the distinguished speakers and establish the bridge between the ideas and the knowledge through this platform. So, our today's speaker is Dr. Jürgen von der Heijden, and he is a senior researcher and advisor in TNO, the Netherlands Organization for Applied Scientific Research. He educated in public law and administration at the universities of Leiden and Amsterdam. Between 1992 and 2014, he worked as researcher at the law faculty and lecturer at the political science faculty of the University of Amsterdam. Between 2001 and 2005, he was seconded to the national government, and from 2006 to 2022, he worked for an engineering firm. Since then, he has been working for TNO's strategy and policy department in the sustainability and spatial development group. Yugan specializes in the integrative approach, which addresses multiple problems simultaneously, such as climate adaptation and energy transition. In this context, he conducts various research projects on the idea of resources that allocate resources. Think, for example, of a dike that is also a road. Currently, more complex cases are on the research agenda, such as greenery and water along the highway that help to maintain the stability of the road in times of climate change. Legal rules and sectorally organized cash flows can stand in the way of integrated solutions to such problems. So, law and finance are central to Jürgen's research. So he will talk today about the green resource allocation in cities, that is the characteristics of the urban green economy. And in this lecture, he will draw the case studies that explores the defining characteristics of the urban green economy, practical strategies for implementation, and approaches to secure financing. So now I again invite Dr. Jürgen for the talk. So Dr. Jürgen, the floor is all yours. I am sharing your presentation.
Yes, so thank you, Dr. Saxena, for this opportunity to share my research and talking about sharing. Hopefully you can share the screen. I will wait for that.
Yeah, Pallavi, your screen sharing disappeared.
Yeah, I'm just sharing it again.
Yes, there it is.
Yeah, fine.
So, just to give it a start, the whole concept of green resource allocation in cities is new to me also, although it follows from what I've been researching for the past years. And today I will talk about this green resource allocation and try to explain also the characteristics of the urban green economy, and hopefully for the audience of iLEAPS give some understanding of how you can combine your maybe more or less physical studies with the more or less social studies that I do, and how they can profit from one another. On the next slide, please, I will show you the steps that I will take in the next 40 minutes. So I will give some cases to show you what a green economy could look like. Then I will make an economic analysis of these cases, try to explain them in terms of what I said earlier, the allocation. That brings me then to the heart of the presentation today, the green resource allocation. I will end with the problem of financing, because quite often people see the economical profits of the urban green economy, but then financiers hesitate to give money. So that's one of the obstacles, and I will give some attention to that. And then I will end with some conclusions. So this first slide, please bear with me. It's a lot of text, but this this quote from the Local Governments for Sustainability organization, ICLEI, you see it in the corner right above. They made a study of green economy and how to finance it. And so take some time, please, to read this, because this is their take of the problem of green economy and financing, and I want to elaborate on that. So just take some time to read it, please. And don't worry, I will come back to all of this in next slides. So please to move to the next slide, Pallavi. Yeah, so to start with, first of all, the people at ICLEI, they are correct in saying, and I think you will agree, that nature-based solutions act as essential infrastructure, improve public health, enable climate adaptation, and constitute long-term investments in sustainable urban development. So that's more what you could say the economical side, and then they move to the financial systems, and they are right to observe that these financial systems have not evolved at the same pace, and then their solution is to bridge this gap. Governments and donors must fully recognize the wide-ranging benefits of nature-based solutions. So here comes my opinion. I agree with most of what they're saying, but the problem is that they stop short of explaining what these benefits of nature-based solutions actually are. How do they really operate? Or in other words, what defines the urban green economy? So the more in-depth study is needed, because only by answering the question what the urban green economy really is, only then can we organize both this economy and its financing effectively. So that's the problem to solve, and that's what I will be talking about this afternoon. At least for me, it's afternoon. Next slide, please. So the people at ICLEI, that organization, they're also right to state that nature-based solutions improve public health, enable climate adaptation, and contribute to public health, social equity, economic resilience. I assume you all agree with that, and you specialize in that, so you know a lot of things about this. But from an economical point of view, what's behind this? Only when we really understand how nature-based solutions can have so many benefits at the same time, can we make good use of what they are. So to create an understanding of what, from an economical point of view, nature-based solutions are, I will take two steps. First, I will show two cases, the crystal bath case and the climate road case, and then I will analyze these cases from an economical perspective. Next slide, please. So here's a picture of a water retention area in the Netherlands, and here's, oh yeah, you can move on. Thank you, Pallavi. Yes. So this area is called Crystal Bath, and it is located between the two easternmost cities in the Netherlands called Enschede and Hengelo. And thing is that, as you can imagine, in looking at cities, is that there's a lot of stone, a lot of pavement, roads. So when you have heavy rain, water immediately goes into the sewage system. But the problem is that when it's too much water, and the first city, Enschede, is a bit higher than the second one, Hengelo, then water flows from Enschede to Hengelo, causing flooding. So the solution is to what they did some 15 years ago. Is they did build this water retention area between the two cities, and uh, the way I want to present this case and the next case also is the positive effects of the intervention, and also the mitigation of negative effects. And to start with, of course, the main positive effect of this area is water storage, and the mitigation of a negative effect is the prevention of flooding. So next slide, please. So what you also see, and I guess that with your audience, you understand this, is when you make this water storage area also a nature conservation area, then there's productivity between the water and nature, because the nature really stores water better. It makes the soil better. With as a result, the soil can contain water better, but also the water is good for nature and soil. So there are some extra positive side effects here. Besides water storage, you also have nature conservation and biodiversity, and of course you have the prevention of flooding. So you see a buildup of this case. You see that it has more co-benefits. And a next co-benefit is the water purification, because as you can imagine, when you have a lot of nature and a really healthy soil in the area, then you can purify the water. So the drinking water company in the area uses this area to take a step in water purification. And then the next slide also presents extra qualities of the area, because being a nice green water-rich area between two cities, they created also space for recreation, so people can go there, have walks, drink tea, and in the midst of two cities, this creates also so cities being more urbanized have lost their quality over the last years, and this adds some quality, mitigating for the loss of quality during the past years. So what you see here are in a total of 7 qualities that are 7 benefits, or if you want, co-benefits created by this one intervention, building a water storage area. So that's what I wanted to show about this crystal bath case. And now I move to the next case. That's the climate road. So you see here the damage done to roads because of climate change adaptation, heat, and a lot of rain, and then you get this kind of subsidence. And I will now analyze this climate road case in exactly the same way I analyzed the crystal bath case. So what they do in the Netherlands along this Dutch A10 motorway is that they look at the verge of the road, the roadside, and try to add all kinds of qualities there. So try to create positive effects and mitigate negative effects, and that starts with biodiversity in the verge. So it's some sort of biodiversity lane, you could almost say, because it's a highway. And when you have good nature and healthy soil in the verge of the road, then that prevents flooding of the road because it absorbs water. So those are the two first qualities I wanted to show. The next slide will add some qualities to that. So the biodiversity in the first place contributes to water quality in the roadside ditch, because all the water goes to ditches along the road. And the nature in the verge of the road does some water purification. And that's also quite important for the whole water system in the neighborhood of this road. And this road crosses a recreational area where people want to sail on the water, maybe swim in the water. And so these green roadsides help to sustain the water quality in the larger area. And that's important for the recreation in that area. And also, maybe if you go one back, Pallavi, so what I wanted to add there is that it's really important for the quality of the road that the drought and the heat that damage the road and the roadside, you can mitigate that when you have green and wet verges. So that's a quality that also comes from these green roadsides. And then the last, the next one. So also when you manage the roadside by extensive mowing, not too much mowing, but have a lot of plants there, then that furthers biodiversity. And here it comes. So one of the main reasons for the Dutch Highway Agency to do this is that these green verges with a lot of green, a lot of water, they give stability to the highway. So it's it mitigates the subsidence of the highway because of the climate change. So here again, you see a total of 7 qualities because of one intervention. The green verges, green roadsides have 7 extras along the highway. So with in the next step, I want to analyze these 2 cases. Yeah, well, you can move on. Sorry, it's an economic analysis. So the main thesis, so let's take some time for this slide. The main thesis of my talk this afternoon is that what you see in these cases is what you could call resources allocating resources. And that might need some explanation, and I will give that. So as you may know, some basic economics is that when we are talking about what economics are about, the allocation of resources, and that can be resources like roads or water or energy or care, anything that people need on an everyday basis. Those resources are allocated by the market, and as far as the market is not able to do that or is not allowed to do that, then the government steps in and allocates those resources. That's me mentioning basic economic theory. But in my opinion, when you look at these 2 cases, then there's more going on than. So if you could go back, please. There's more going on in these cases than only the government and the market allocating resources. Although the government takes these steps by building the water retention area and by maintaining the road, what you see in these effects, these 7 effects in both cases, is that the one effect also causes the next effect. So working on the one resource, for instance, nature conservation, also causes water purification. So what the thesis is that you have a third allocation mechanism besides market and government, and that those are the resources themselves. So the one resource also causes the next resource to come up and do its work. Now, I hope that this very first explanation gives some clarity already, and hopefully in next steps I will give more clarity about this new idea about how the economy works. Next slide, please. Well, and of course you can say, well, these resources, they don't allocate things automatically. So for instance, you could say, hey, a roof allocates solar panels, or a dike allocates a road on that dike, but the dike can't talk and the roof can't talk. So of course you need people to take care for the actual allocation. And that's the same looking at market and governments. So the market as such doesn't do the allocation. That's what people do. The government without people can't do any allocation. So who are the people who are behind this allocation of resources by resources? And the whole idea is that those are communities. So people working in communities take care of the fact that resources can allocate resources. Now, elaborate on that on the next slide, please. So when you look, for instance, at the crystal bath case, then you see there a group of organizations, for instance, the nature conservation organization, the municipality, the entrepreneur who manages the recreation in the area, and of course the drinking water company. They work together, and they optimize water storage, nature conservation, water purification, recreation. So they are in a constant dialogue. How can we take care, for instance, in the very best way for nature, in such a way that it helps to contain water, retain water, but that it also helps to purify the water. So you have to optimize all those actions at the same time. And this kind of optimization can only be done by people in a community wherein they look after one another. And when one of the parties, let's say the drinking water company, says, well, I want to maximize my production, then that might not be the best way to manage your nature. So maximization can drive the other parties out, or might even result in the fact that you will step out yourself, maybe as a drinking water company. So maximization is something that doesn't happen in a community. It's all about optimization, looking out after one another so that everyone wants to stay in the community and help one another work in the best possible way at all the interests that are involved. So that brings me to the definition here. A community is a group of representatives of diverse interests, each of whom recognizes that their interests are best served when resources allocated to one interest are also used to serve their interests. So that's the reason for each party to stay in the community and to manage areas like Crystal Bath, or to manage a road where all these functions come together. So then looking at allocation, so it's the market, it's the government, and communities, each working on the allocation of resources. And they do when that best serves their interest, and if not, so when a market party says, well, my interests are no longer best served in this community, then it will fall back into its own way of working. Let the market do its work. So the 3 allocation mechanisms coexist, and it's quite important to state here that the community that allocates resources with resources can make market and government function better. So, for instance, the drinking water company, that's a market company, functions better within the community at Crystal Bath. Also, the municipalities of Enschede and Eindhoven that take care of water retainment, water catchment, I should say, they function better within this community together with the nature conservation organization, together with the drinking water company. So that's how market, government, and community work together. And that's how you can give resources, allocating resources, a place in the economy besides market and government. Okay, with that behind us, and I hope you get my point here. Let's move on to the green resource allocation. What's the place of greenery in all of this? And I guess both cases already made clear what greenery can do. So of course the best examples of resource allocation of resources allocating resources come from nature. So for instance, the water purification in the Crystal Bath case is I think a very obvious example of how resources allocate resources. But what I want to make clear on this slide is that green resource allocation is not only nature allocating nature, but also nature allocating, for instance, the stability of a motorway. So a motorway is not a green thing; it's gray infrastructure. Or nature can allocate public health. So when greenery does this within a city, when it enhances the motorway, when it enhances public health, when it enhances water quality, when it maybe works as a cooling instrument, then it also improves the green urban economy. So that's one important way of how the allocation of resources by resources, and green resources being part of that, how that enhances the economy. And there's another and the last way, that's it. You can also see that green resources are being allocated by other sorts of resources. And I think the most obvious example here is the green roof, or a roof. You could say a roof is a gray infrastructure. And when you have that kind of gray infrastructure, that allocates green infrastructures when you get a green roof. Well, a way to look at this is that from all these various resources coming together, for instance, greenery coming together with the roof, you get integration. I think the Crystal Bath case gives a very good example of integration. So water storage, nature, water purification, recreation, and livability, they integrate, they come together, they make one another stronger. So they are not only together in the same place, but they're also working for one another. And that's what I wanted to make clear with this idea of integration. And other examples do picture the same. I will give one example here that I think gives some clarification. So when you have a green roof, an important function, at least where I live in the Netherlands, an important function of green roofs is to hold, to contain water for some time. So to slow down the streaming of water to the sewage, because otherwise the sewage will overflood. So to contain some water on roofs, and what you then get is at the same time greenery, and very wet greenery on a roof. And when you have solar panels on that green and on that wet greenery, then that cools down the solar panels. And interesting is how solar panels function better, are more efficient when they are being cooled down by this combination of greenery and water. And I think that gives a clear picture of what integration is, because the water makes the greenery better, and the water and the greenery make the solar panels better. So they are working for one another, and that's the point I wanted to make here. And that I think is an important point about how the green economy can work. Next slide, please. So the idea is that with this last example of a roof with green, water, and solar panels, you have 4 activities actually at the same time going on: roofing, water retention, greenery, and solar panels. So you have what we call in the economy value stacking. You stack 4 values at the same time above your house on this roof. But like I said, these 4 functions, it's not only value stacking, but they also empower one another. Like I said, the greenery and water retention improve the solar panels. So you have value stacking, you have empowerment, and furthermore, you also share the costs, because you don't have to pay for another place for the solar panels, for instance, or you don't have to pay for extra sewage because that function is on your roof. So economically, you see 4 functions at the same time, empowering one another and sharing costs. And also, and that's economically also very important, they diminish risks. So the risk of flooding, for instance, is being diminished. And so that's an extra economical function. And that brings me to this idea about economy and how it works. And we call that new efficiency. So probably you all know the definition of common efficiency, how we are used to look at efficiency, and that is using all necessary means to reach one goal at the most, as quickly as possible and with minimal costs. That's how we think about efficiency. So now, when you look at this new kind of economy that I'm trying to explain, you have another kind of efficiency, and that's what I'm trying to explain in the former slide, which is solar panels on a wet roof and green roof. So you have 4 values on that roof. That's what they call value stacking. And you saw it also in the crystal bath case and the climate road case. You see also value stacking there, these 7 values in both of these cases. The second one is that the whole is worth more than the sum of its parts, because various functions improve one another. Then you have the sharing of costs, the cost of building, the cost of operation. CapEx is the cost of building, OpEx is the cost of operation, and also sharing transaction costs, because when you already had your transaction costs building the roof, and when the same parties go on working with the green and the solar panels, then they already know one another. That diminishes your transaction costs. And finally, when risks go down, you have a really resilient product like a green roof or like crystal bath, then also your risks go down. And then financiers, less risks makes your financiers happy, and they will lower their interest. So this is hardcore economics that I presented to you, and hopefully an interesting argument why the urban green economy, when it has that kind of efficiency, is interesting enough to study. So the business case of the urban green economy is that you develop integrated projects with new efficiency, and when you do that step by step, and for instance, you increase the number of green roofs, you increase the number of parks, you increase the amount of greenery all over the city, the amount of water all over the city. So when you actually scale up, then you can get an urban green economy that is not only working at some various sites within the city, but that might improve the quality of your whole city. And then I will move on to the arguments I want to make about finance. Is that when you have cities with this kind of quality, our capital-rich sectors, our investors from capital-rich sectors such as housing, healthcare, and energy, are they interested to invest in this urban green economy? So do they want to put up their money for it? That's what I want to present in the next section about finance. Yes, and please move on to the next slide, Pallavi. Thank you. So what we observe where I live in the Netherlands, and also what we hear from various other countries around the world, is that the financial institutions are finally getting to see our point, and that there might be a breakthrough in financing, and that there might come serious possibilities to finance the urban green economy. And the reason why financial institutions might have this breakthrough is that they are exposed to an increasing number of risks. And that's, for instance, climate change, energy transition, keeping up the quality of healthcare. Of course, housing problems are numerous throughout the world. You have also the nitrogen crisis, too much nitrogen coming from agriculture. There are security problems. So a financial institution that wants to stay healthy is exposed to a lot of risks these days, more than before. So they are looking for certainty, because that's what financial institutions always do, don't they? And what they see, and here it comes, is that the financial health of cities is also their financial health. So when the residents of cities have buying power and can pay for the mortgages and premiums of these financial institutions, then these financial institutions are healthy. But when residents have troubles paying for mortgages and premiums, then of course the financial health of these financial institutions, goes down. So this is the reason why they are nowadays more interested than before to pay, for instance, for green initiatives, healthy environments, clean energy, and more, all kinds of actions. So when you have a nice green neighborhood, a healthy neighborhood with clean energy, then that will improve the buying power of residents, and that will, at the end of the day, improve the financial health of institutions. But at the same time, the breakthrough is not there yet. There's also an impasse in looking at climate finance. Um, I hope you will agree that most projects to improve the climate are nature-based solutions, since nature, of course, is the best instrument to adapt to climate change and to mitigate its effects. However, um, many financiers still disregard the value of nature-based solutions, and that they are a sound investment. So they still don't see the real economical value of nature-based solutions, and so to come to this breakthrough that's developing, there's still a lot of work to be done. And in the next slide, I want to point out what can be done to really move these financial institutions to pay for the urban green economy. Um, well, the first step is to show the value of new efficiency, to really show what it is when you do value stacking, when in those stack of values, the one value enhances the worth of the other, when you share costs, and so on and so on, like I explained. So show the value of new efficiency to financiers. Um, also, show the resilience of these kind of integrated business cases, because as always, it's really important for financiers to show them that their risks are low. And I think we can show that. I think we have a lot of in our hands to show that the business case of the urban green economy is low risk, but we have to convince them of that. Also, that there's something interesting going on with transaction costs. For instance, looking at the crystal bath case, these parties have gotten to know one another, working on the water retention area, and then because they knew one another, then a good nature conservation party stepped in, the drinking water company stepped in. They've gotten to know one another, and so their transaction costs are paying off every day, and that's a new characteristic of business that we don't know in the old economy. Finally, or in the fourth place, that the these financial institutions fear that a integrated project will be a complicated project, but not when they are being developed step by step, like for instance, Crystal Balls was being developed step by step. So they're not so complicated as perceived. And finally, in a lot of cases, you can scale up projects, and that's economically, of course, always interesting for a financier. So in our minds, these are 5 arguments to make towards financial institutions to realize a breakthrough and get them to invest in the urban green economy. That brings me to my conclusion. So when we go back to the original problem that I presented with the help of this quote from Ickley, and what I explained at the start of this lecture is that, in my opinion, the people from Ickley do not really explain what the benefits of nature-based solutions actually are. So they promise that nature-based solutions will really enhance the quality of cities, but they leave it at that promise, and they don't really explain why. And because they do not really explain what the benefits of nature-based solutions are, they're not actually able to bridge the gap between the function of nature-based solutions and finance. So what I tried in my former slide, how to convince financiers why it's worthwhile to invest in nature-based solutions, that's not an explanation they give, and they're not able to give that yet because they did not really make a thorough study of what nature-based solutions are. So the question is, when you make that study and when you come up with a thesis like resources that allocate resources, are we then able to bridge the gap? Next slide, please. So although the people of Italy do recognize the benefits of NBS, nature-based solutions, I think they still stick to traditional ideas about economics. So they still work with the idea that allocation comes from governments and market parties, and that they to really profit from nature-based solutions, that the market has to explore that and do that, and that governments have to do it. And they do not work with the alternative of communities that can improve markets and governments. So and the problem with markets and governments is that they are usually being held accountable for working on one goal at the same time, whereas nature-based solutions work at a series of goals, and that's not what market and governments are used to, and communities are used to work with more goals at the same time. So as long as we don't acknowledge the real worth of communities and working at more goals at the same time, then we are not able to really acknowledge the worth of nature-based solutions. And that's why ICLEI doesn't bridge the gap, in my opinion. And that brings me to my very last slide. So only when market parties and governmental agencies see that they will reach the goal that they are accountable for better in the community, then they will cooperate in allocating resources with other resources. So like I explained earlier, then when they there's a good coexistence of markets, communities, and governments, but only when, as a market party and a governmental agency, you see that you're better off cooperating within the community, then you can really present the benefits of nature-based solutions. Then you can also really present those benefits in a good way to financiers, and then financiers will be open to finance projects. So when ICLEI, in the quote that I started with, advocates for a fund for multiple benefit projects, then I'm completely with them. I'm actually with others working on these kinds of funds to finance multiple benefit projects. But we do it in a way that we try to engage financiers by showing them what the real business case, the real integrated business case of the urban green economy is, and hopefully that's the way forward, and that's what I wanted to present to you this afternoon. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Jürgen. The floor is now open for questions. Is Pallavi around? Hello? Can you hear me, Professor?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah. So I was just wondering whether people are able to hear me or not. So if you have questions, please, you can just unmute your mic and ask. Yeah, please go, Vanessa.
Hi.
You are muted, Vanessa. You can unmute.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentations. Actually, I won't have that very precise question, but I just want to share by the fact that actually, because I'm actually in my organization, I'm working at the Asian Institute of Technology Regional Resources Center for Asia and the Pacific. And actually, we have just had a seminar regarding this sort of a nature-based solutions, at least in Asia. And what we are then is very interesting hearing, and also I'm not expert on this one, but I just have some experience to share regarding what we developed, and we are very interested in Thailand. Also with the fact that like some corporate, for example, when you talk about the buildings and construction that seeking the way to increase the greenery in the urban cities, and like now we are in Bangkok, and we just have what we call the the week. This is the clean air week, but we have also have the climate solution, and some hotels already have uh, the organic farming. So I don't know if you have such things also out there, or maybe you have more. Even it's just an increasing trend at the moment here in Bangkok, that is a policy moving towards the green cities of Bangkok here. And so many of the hotels started, and I think it's very interesting because then they can actually sustain the food waste. Is the food waste that they have a compost on top of the building, and then they start to make soils and like planting the organic vegetables for their hotel cooking. Yeah. So they're promoting such, but I think this has a trend coming from Switzerland, Swiss chain hotel. Yeah. Yeah. So just to share, so I don't know how, just that it's a very good, and I think at the moment we also have a lot of discussion about what you discuss here, and try to encourage more of the banks to be involved in investment on such activities. Yeah.
If I may respond, the hotels are indeed an interesting example. So maybe if I start with the Dutch city of Rotterdam, where green roofing really started, and that has bit of a sad reason because it was bombarded in the Second World War. And when they did rebuild it, they had a lot of flat roofs, contrary to Amsterdam, where that's a very old city where green roofs are not so easy to realize. But then in Amsterdam, indeed, the hotel sector started with roof terraces many years ago without any green. And then indeed some 10 to 15 years ago, they recognized that a green roof, so they changed their terraces on the roofs into roof gardens, with, of course, the terrace also there. And indeed, there are various hotels that I know of in the city of Amsterdam where the chef of the restaurant that's part of the hotel does have some green agriculture on the roof, and people like that. But what's more important is that, of course, a few hotels with a green roof doesn't make city green, but it started a trend in Amsterdam, and that is what makes it so important. And when you look nowadays, and then I go back to Rotterdam. Rotterdam is actually thinking of having a next level greenery. So not only greenery on the ground, but have a whole park actually on the roofs of Rotterdam. Well, that's not so easy in Amsterdam, but you see that developing, and that each year the amount of green roofs grows. So indeed, starting that with green roofs on hotels is, looking at the Amsterdam example, very productive.
Thank you, Jürgen. There are a few questions on the chat. Do you want me to read it out for you?
I can see them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the first question is about the challenges people faced during the integration of crystal bath and the climate road study. Yeah, so of course there are two main challenges in all of these examples, and they're about political accountability, and they're about money. So for instance, when I'm a municipality, let's take the municipality of the city of Hengelo, that's one of the cities looking at crystal bath. Can I put money in such a solution when that money might go to the drinking water company? Because am I going to subsidize the drinking water company, or am I going to use the money that we have for water retention in the very best way here, or am I going to lose money? So that's what they all call these split incentives. Are people going to really share the costs, or is the one party going to pay more than the other? And that financial challenge almost always quickly changes into a political challenge. So is someone in the city council going to tell the alderman, oh, what are you going to do with this money that's meant for water retention? Are you going to also use that for water purification, but then you're going to subsidize the drinking water company, and that's not what this water is meant for. So please, Mr. Alderman, you're doing the wrong thing here. So that's what you meet in all these cases, where all these integrated cases that we know of. So the financial political problem is always there. Finally, and then I turn around your question is, there's also a lot of inspiration when people do this. So yes, there are challenges, but the funny thing is that people are quite often being inspired by this way of working because they like it more. And then your second question, yeah, that's of course about scaling up. So when you really want to get to this urban green economy, and you want to use especially water and greenery to change your city and make it a healthy and cool place, then yes, I think you can integrate. So if I have time, I want to give one very spectacular example that gives an answer to your question. So many of you may have heard of this big Dutch company ASML. They make these. They help to make chips. So they're in the international news quite often. So they're a really big company in the city of Eindhoven in the Netherlands, and they have grown so much that they have to move to a new location. And then the drinking water company said, well, but we don't have enough water for you. Or I should say the water company, because they need water also for their industrial production. And what happened is that because of European legislation, and here it comes, the highway agency is obliged by European law to purify water that flows from highways, because that's contaminated. So what you now see is that the Dutch highway company purifies water and becomes a water company, and will supply that water to the new ASML location. So then you get this really interesting new combinations within the city of Eindhoven, where the industry is being supplied with water that's been purified by the highway agency, and I think that those are the kind of solutions that will be normal in cities from now on, because you have to really use your water in a sustainable way. So I hope this example gives an answer to your second question.
Sorry. Yeah, I think if there are no more questions, can I ask one question? I'm not sure whether I heard it right. The water retention surfaces can increase the solar panel capacity. Did you say anything like that? So I was just wondering, how is it going to increase the solar panel capacity?
Yeah, so the funny thing to answer that question is with this very, very Dutch word of polder. I hope you know what that is. So we have a lot of polders in the Netherlands. So that there were former lakes, and now they're
Yeah.
agricultural areas. So when you look at green roofs in the Netherlands, then most of them have these, well, just plants on them. But to prevent flooding of neighborhoods, at some point in some cities they started with what they call polder roofs, because the greenery is on those roofs is used to contain water. And that diminishes the speed of the water going to the sewage system, because with heavy rain then the sewage system overfloods. So you have to the roofs hold on to that water for a few hours. So they made these green roofs into water retention roofs at the same time, and then you get these wet green roofs. And the interesting thing is that when you have solar panels on a green roof, then the greenery cools down the solar panel for about 10%, and I'm sorry, they cool down the solar panels, and then their efficiency for producing electricity goes up 10%. That's what I meant. Yeah. But when you have green and wet roofs, then the cooling process is even stronger, and then the efficiency of the solar panels goes up 25%. So that is what water does with. So we also have floating solar panels floating on a lake, for instance, because the lake cools down the panels.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you, Ramesh. I don't see any more hands. So maybe Pallavi, we can just conclude the session if you're ready.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Jurgen, for such an enthralling talk.